Coloring Crypto.
30 episodes down of Coloring Crypto. This is episode 31. If you've been enjoying this, or even if you are just one of those generous, awesome people that leave reviews, would you leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, formerly known as iTunes? Reviews make such a huge deal, and we don't ask for them often, but please leave a review and share this with your friends. And if you're listening and aren't ready to share, that's cool, but if you've got feedback on what would it take to improve this, what do you want to hear about? What do you want us to ask? Who should we have on as guests? Let us know that. Tweet us at Coloring Crypto. But hey, leave us a review. Make my day. Thank you so much. Today we've got Tricia Martinez with Walla, and this is going to be a cool episode. I thought we'd talk about South by Southwest, where she just gave a keynote talk, but we really get into her company, the problem they're solving, which comes up in so many of the answers I get asking what could be the big impacts of the blockchain on the world. And that's giving access to financial means to folks that don't have them now. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to Coloring Crypto. We have Tricia Martinez with Walla. Can you go ahead and sort of introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Hi, thanks for having me. Yep, I am the founder and CEO of Walla and the director of the Dala Foundation. Walla is a mobile financial platform for emerging market consumers. So we operate in between banks and financial service providers and consumers to create more efficiency in the financial system within Africa and other emerging markets. We actually recognize a big problem around financial inclusion, mainly the fact that consumers can't really access products and services and that the costs of these services are really high. So we created Walla to solve that problem, and we recently issued a crypto token called Dala to actually support emerging market consumers for instant zero-fee borderless micropayments.
Awesome. And so, Tricia, I first heard your name from a friend, Michelle Singh, who made a list of women influencers in the blockchain, and since I've kind of learned more about your company. But you just went to South by Southwest, is that right?
Yes. Yeah,
So,
I just returned from there. Yep.
So yeah, I've never been. I was supposed to go 10 years ago. I entered a film into their competition, and lo and behold, it was not made. It did not make it, and so I've never been. What is it like? I've heard tons of things. It's a big party. It's a huge event. It's very, very, very buzzy. Like, what was it like for you?
Yeah, it was crazy. So unfortunately, I flew in. I live in South Africa. Our team is based in Cape Town. So I flew in, was crazy jet lagged. There was a 2-day event called the Crypto Summit, where I gave the keynote and spoke on a panel about how blockchain can change the world. So I was up at 4 a.m. every day because of my jet lag and going to bed at
Right.
night. But the town itself is just madness. There's people everywhere. Every road is shut down. I really wanted to experience Austin because that was my first time being there, and I've heard it's such a cool city. So it was hard to really experience the real Austin, but there's just so much going on: arts, music, science, tech. Anything you can think of is there. So it was cool to see such a diverse group of individuals come together.
And they have their film festival. They have all kinds of other sort of like themes and topics. I watched some of your stuff that was posted on YouTube, and then I ended up watching Bernie Sanders and Jake Tapper. I'm curious, like of all the different kind of events and groups happening, how much of the crypto blockchain community sort of mixed with the other themes?
I don't think they mix so much, but there was just an insane amount of crypto and blockchain related events or panels or conversations. So
Yeah, their
I was,
website their website says it's like 700 plus crypto
yeah, yeah,
events.
it was crazy. So that was cool to see that, and it touched so many different, components: supply chain management, education, health. So, that brought together the different components of blockchain, brought together the different industries, which I think was really exciting just because more and more people are getting educated and learning about it.
Was there any sense you had of like, what was like the hot buzz new topic, or kind of like controversy? Was there any kind of like consistency to what conversations you kind of found yourself falling into?
It's always the ICOs.
Yeah.
So I like honestly like we at the summit I was at, um only the people only care about talking about ICOs, and it's more of how do I invest in them.
Uh-huh.
And so it's, I think I like we're in this really interesting place in the industry right now. Like people are more excited. A lot of people in the space are really excited about how to make a quick buck, which is understandable. Like I think this is just a part of the evolution of blockchain and what's going to happen.
Money makes the world go round.
Exactly. So I think we're going to continue to see this excitement and hype over ICOs. Like it was just purely like panels on how to invest appropriately, what to look out for, how to vet out companies, in the right way, and which is good. Like we need to have more governance in these conversations because there's just too many scams, and it's a detriment to the rest of the crypto community. But I think there are a lot more educators than coming into the space and enterprises who are really curious about blockchain technology itself. And so I was also observing that there are these everyday, traders or investors that want to learn more about ICOs, but then the businesses are trying to understand blockchain and how they can apply it to their businesses.
So yeah, you were saying right off the bat that people were all curious, how do I invest in ICOs? And it sounds like you're saying there's interest from people that are brand new to this there, but also from like these businesses that have kind of a sense of what they're supposed to be doing. Was there kind of more of one than the other, like experienced investors in cryptocurrencies versus like brand new people? At South by Southwest.
I would say so. People who attended these events that were interested in ICOs are brand new. Like they're really trying to figure out how do I get in this space. And then the people who are presenting on these are like, either guys who have done token sales or are day traders and have made careers out of this. So it's like people who like to call themselves experts, which I don't think anyone is, and then people who are the newbies in the space.
And with your jet lag and everything, did you have much time just to go check out some general talks and conferences? What were some of your favorites?
So I was like so the crypto summit that I was at was an all-day 2-day event.
Oh.
And so I was there like, there, I gave the keynote, which was nice because then it like set the tone and everyone right off the bat knew who I was and what we were working on. So I was kind of like bombarded the rest of the day,
right,
with people who wanted to chat.
I love how at conferences it's like if you just get up there at the podium, you're just a magnet for business cards.
Exactly.
So tell us a little about your keynote. I mean, was your keynote about wallet and what you guys were doing, or was it just kind of about microtransactions in third world countries, or what was that about?
Yeah, so I have been doing a lot of these recently, and my focus has always been the potential for cryptocurrency in emerging markets. And what's really interesting is that a lot of people in the U.S., especially, they don't really recognize that crypto is going to take off a lot faster than in emerging markets than it is in the U.S. Our company is extremely bullish, obviously, on the space, but we see that crypto is going to drive a financial revolution in emerging markets because there are serious problems that need to be solved. And what's hard in the U.S. is we're not exposed to the financial and banking problems that consumers are around the world. So it's not as easy to integrate technology and get a large user base transacting with Bitcoin on a day-to-day basis because it's not really solving a massive need for consumers right now. So I try to bring to light to everyone like what they should actually be looking towards, and it should be emerging markets because there's so much opportunity. And if they want to think about investing and looking long term in the future, they should be looking at emerging markets. So
give us because when we started this podcast, we would ask every guest, and we kind of stopped doing this, but we'd ask every guest like, hey, what are the great future possibilities of the blockchain? How can it change the world and solve human problems? And a lot of the answers were sort of honestly a little bit vague, but the consistent answer from a lot of folks, the most common answer was it's got the possibility to give access to third world countries, emerging markets, banking. Can you lay out like some statistics and like the basics of like, for those of us in the West and the U.S. that don't understand, like what is the challenge for folks that lay out that challenge for us?
What is the problem? Yeah.
Yeah.
So globally, there's 3.5 billion people who operate outside the financial system. So literally half of the world is either unbanked or underbanked, and that means
What's the difference between unbanked or underbanked? Just bad banks is underbanked.
no. So unbanked is consumers literally don't have a bank account,
Okay.
and it's either due to the fact that they don't have identification, geographical issues, they're intimidated by the financial system. There are a number of reasons why. Underbanked are consumers who I would define more as like the mass market consumer. So like this emerging middle class, they likely have a bank account because their employer requires them to, but at the end of every month they cash out. And then
Okay.
they operate in cash everywhere because they want to avoid those fees. They want to avoid the banking system as a whole because they don't really trust it, and there's a lot of fraud. So there's just like half of the world is operating outside of the system. So the two main reasons are cost and access. So the biggest barrier is that every product, service, to deposit money, to withdraw money, to transact, to check your balance at a bank, to go into a bank, they charge you. They charge you fees. And for consumers who are, living paycheck to paycheck, working multiple jobs, they don't have the luxury to be paying really high fees. So they're just disincentivized to operate in the financial system. Like I'm going to choose to use cash because I can see it, I can trust it, I feel it. Like it makes more sense for me, and I can avoid any fees. They may not see the actual fees of traveling and loss of cash, but they still choose to operate in cash. And so, what's crazy is that this McKinsey study, like last year, said that if banks in emerging markets were to actually service these consumers and close the small business credit gap, they had the potential to make over $380 billion in revenue. So there's so much money to be had, but these banks have not created an appropriate business model or system to service these consumers, and that's the problem. So there's banks that do a really bad job, but then there's these other providers that have come in and have actually serviced consumers more efficiently, and they're called mobile network operators. So think of an AT&T, like a telecom company in the US, providing a mobile wallet. So on my mobile wallet, whether it's a smartphone or a basic feature phone, I can buy data for my phone by texting a message. I can buy airtime, which are minutes. I can pay my bills. But the issue with this is they charge really high fees as well for every single transaction or service that you use.
And are those high fees? Is that just total markup? I mean, it's just zeros and ones to them, or is there like some sort of weird overhead with their legacy systems that requires that? I'm kind of getting at, like once there's a competitive thing like Walla, can they just drop their prices and compete right with you?
No, they can't. That's the crazy thing. So banks have outdated legacy systems. They have branches. They have ATM networks. They've designed a U.S. banking system for emerging market consumers, and it just doesn't work that way.
Right.
They're not using it. And core banking systems are crazy expensive, so they literally cannot drop these fees. The MNOs, these big telecom companies, use what are called agent networks. So an agent network is around the corner of the street, anywhere you are, you will find a guy at a kiosk where you can cash in and cash out. So it's a human ATM, but they are crazy expensive to keep running.
That's like our version of check cashing little kiosks in like, urban areas in the U.S., making like 20% off of people's. Yeah.
Exactly. And so these guys, the agents take a cut, the MNO takes a cut. So the fees are always pushed on to the consumer. So, on a small transaction, they can be paying like 5 to 10%, which just seems absurd. So they want to keep using cash. And what's, so these MNOs, the banks, they've all kind of failed at the way they've designed the models for consumers. And we said, look, we can come in, provide a zero fee system by operating with off-chain transactions. and really design a model for these consumers. So we said it has to be zero fee. It has to support micropayments, and that's the big pieces. People don't recognize that consumers in these markets are moving very small amounts of money and transacting in small amounts. So this is my favorite stat of all time. You asked for stats.
Yeah.
In 2016, over 269 billion with a B billion dollars were transacted in mobile money. So the texting of mobile money wallets, like I said, 269 billion.
So that's worldwide, and
yeah,
and including sort of like Venmo and what is it? What is that exactly?
yeah, it's worldwide, but the vast majority of these transactions are in emerging markets because that's how consumers operate right now. So 269 billion of those transactions, 2/3 were less than 80 cents US dollars in value.
Wow, that's a good one. So 2/3 of 269 billion was less than 80 cents.
Less than 3/4.
Yeah.
So like this is their behavior.
Wait,
Like
even with those super high transaction fees, or
yes,
the
yeah.
yeah.
So that's what's crazy. Like literally, it's the most insane thing in emerging markets is that consumers, the things they do to operate around these systems. Like, of course, I want to operate in cash because it's easier, but sometimes you don't have a choice. Like, just looking at remittances, for an example. I take Uber everywhere in Cape Town. They have like the best Uber system in South Africa. And every Uber driver in Cape Town is from Zimbabwe. And I was having a chat with one of my Uber drivers. His name was Kuda Kwashe. And I was asking him, like, you have money, you have family back in Harare, Zimbabwe. How do you send money to them? He's like, there's 3 ways I send money. One is through like a MoneyGram, which is like, Western Union. They charge me 10 to 15% to send money, which is robbery, of course. He's like, I try to avoid that because I can't afford it on my salary. The other option is to find a bus driver who's driving across country. I give him a bag of cash and he takes 7%, and my mom has to go find him once he arrives.
Oh my God. I want to, that's so interesting. That's got to be so rife for, not only theft, but just corruption.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's like, what happens sometimes is there's a long line of people who gave cash to the driver. Sometimes
and everyone's like, why is the bus driver so loaded?
Yeah.
He's like the big. Okay.
And then the other option is the cheapest, which is a 5% fee. Is he finds some informal agent, some guy in Cape Town, and is like, I'm going to give you cash. And then he calls a friend in Zimbabwe and asks if this guy has cash. His mom has to go find this person, and they take 5%. But these are like random people on the street that you have to pray that they're not just going to scam you and walk away with all your
So those are, what would you call the third category? They're informal agents?
Yeah, I would call it because they're not actually an agent. They're just
they're just hustlers.
Yeah, they're hustlers. Literally.
Like, do you know a lot of folks like that? Or are you like I'm wondering, like, as you kind of bring your product to market, they could be real influencers for you if they got on board with it.
100%. We talk to these people because what we do is actually reward guys like this in Dala. We reward them in crypto to create the ecosystem, keep building it out to support the movement of money and to sign up people. So it's like our strategy has been complete grassroots. Like it's grassroots because people spread this like wildfire. When you tell them it's zero fees, like they would definitely don't believe you because they're like, there's no way that's possible. But once they test the app and start using, it's like you've changed their life. It's crazy. And so like these big banks, these corporate financial companies, the Western Unions of the world, there's no way they're going to be able to compete with this. And that's what's the most exciting thing about crypto. I think that you're going to start seeing a huge change in these markets and the way that corporations operate because they're going to start dying out.
I'm still visualizing these informal agents. We'll get back to like the low fees and that, but so who are these kids? Are they all ages? Are they crossing genders? Like who? Give us a description of like what do these people look like?
Honestly, so they're like I like to use the word hustler because it's kind of like that. It's people who create their own jobs, right? There's there's really high unemployment rates in these markets, and so
Yeah.
people have to do anything to find a way to make a buck. So they'll be in a town, their own township, and they'll be maybe known to be the person to move money around because they have contacts in different markets. But uh, it's a big risk. Like that's the interesting thing is they don't. Kuda Kwashi, the Uber driver, told me that he doesn't have a consistent agent or a consistent bus driver because these guys move around so much. They change, numbers are changed. So like there's no easy or formal way to keep using the same people over and over again. And that's a big problem that a lot of these consumers deal with. They're constantly looking for an alternative solution. That's why you saw so many Zimbabweans buying Bitcoin because they were dealing with hyperinflation. They didn't have any hard cash in their country and still don't. It was like an act of desperation. They looked for something that could move across borders to a family in other countries and hopefully use it as a store of value.
So cool. So when you say zero fees, like how do you get to zero fees?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're an ERC20 token, so we're on the Ethereum blockchain. We work with Rada Network. I don't know if you know Rada Network. It's like Lightning for Ethereum.
Give us, just for our listeners, and not to tangent too much, but will you just kind of describe how Radon works and in the context of Lightning?
Yeah, so Rada Network is an off-chain scaling solution. So right when there are transactions on the blockchain, they have fees. There's scaling issues. They can take a long time to process the transactions. This is why we had said we needed to create a new system for emerging market consumers because Bitcoin would never work. It's just way too slow. It's way too expensive. Even with the Lightning Network, it's still inaccessible to a lot of these consumers. So with the Ethereum network, there was no way that we could actually operate on chain because for a consumer in like South Africa to send a Dala token to a consumer in Zimbabwe, the transaction fees would be high and it could take a long time to process. So what the Rada network does, it's a fast and scalable solution for on-chain token transfer. So they work with ERC20 tokens. So literally all of our transactions are off-chain. It's based on nodes, one-to-one. That's micro Raiden. The Raiden network is a larger solution that's being built out right now. So this Raiden network enables Dala to support instant zero fee borderless micropayments. And there is a minor, like there's a minimal fee, very, 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 very small with the Raiden network. But as Walla as a company is covering any of those fees, as a cost for operations because we want to make sure that we can provide zero fees.
Okay, cool. So you guys are covering that for like to bring this to market saturation. What is the business model for you guys?
So Dala Dala and Wall are separate entities completely. Dala's a foundation. It's our vision for it is that it's like a public good, right? We want to create a cryptocurrency for emerging markets so that not only consumers can avoid exchange risks and inflation and the second a president opens his mouth, their currency devalues. Like we want to create this global currency for these emerging market consumers, but also for enterprises who have to operate in these markets and are constantly dealing with moving money around and the cost with it. So that's what our vision is with Dala. Walla is the launch partner of Dala. So Walla is a financial platform. We're an Android app. We essentially digitize banks and financial service providers' products and services. And then we also enable a Dala wallet in our app so that every user who joins Walla gets rewarded in Dala tokens for signing up, inviting friends, for saving money, for paying bills. And then we enable them to, send peer-to-peer payments, buy products and services like airtime and data. They can transact with merchants on the ground, cash in and cash out.
So I would use the Walla wallet from Walla to send Dala, which is sort of run by this sort of separate foundation.
Sounds so confusing.
Walla Walla Dala.
We specifically didn't want to call the cryptocurrency Walla because we thought that would be confusing. So Dala is like, dollar bills.
Yeah, that's great.
So Dala has a wallet, right? We're going to build out a separate app as well for Dala, but as of now, Dala's wallet is in the Walla platform. So every user who signs up for Walla will have access to Dala, and we're rewarding consumers for positive financial behavior.
So could I make my own wallet? I'm not going to keep keep continuing the wallet. Make my own wallet. Could I do my own wallet and have people make it capable of sending Dala to people?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're working with enterprises. That's what's really exciting is that we actually went into this saying this is a massive consumer problem we need to solve, but we've been getting bombarded by enterprises that operate throughout Africa who are like, we don't want to deal with the exchange risk. We need a new payment rails. You're solving a problem. You can solve a big problem for us. So we have a Dala API. If there's another financial platform like Walla who wants to use it, like we're more than happy to do that. This is a massive problem, right? 3.5 billion people.
Yeah.
We need more companies in the space to try to solve this problem.
Tell me about you're in South Africa. Where are you from? And kind of like, how did you end up there? I'm just kind of curious to get a sense of your understanding of the culture and the economy out there.
Yeah, so my co-founder and I are American. We're serial entrepreneurs. We're from Chicago. We actually went through the Barclays Techstars Accelerator.
Where was that? Was that in England?
In London.
Yeah.
In London, yeah. And there was, like 3 years ago, and we met our CTO actually through the accelerator. He reached out to us through AngelList.
That's a huge success. I don't ever hear of that. It's like so rare when that actually happens.
Oh my God, no. Ross, if he's listening, is brilliant. So he reached out to us through AngelList, and we started engaging with them for like 5 months, making sure it was the right fit. But he was like, you need to be in Cape Town. If anywhere, come to South Africa. South Africa is the financial hub for Africa, really, right? All the banks are, headquartered here. And our original vision was to be like essentially a digital bank for Africa. And we moved out to Cape Town, set up, office, and started growing the team. So everyone on our team is either South Africans or Ugandan right now. I started my career in Uganda. I have a background in behavioral economics.
I'm sorry, I missed that. What kind of economics?
Behavioral
economics. Okay. What is that?
Yeah. So it's essentially a combination of psychology and economics to understand why consumers make the choices that they do, like what drives behavior in markets. And so behavioral economics is really what drove my passion for financial inclusion, because I wanted to figure out how we could change behavior. How can you influence a consumer to save money? Why do we not prepare for the future, even though we know what's going to happen if we don't? Just the concept of saving money is a very interesting thing.
Yeah.
And so for these emerging market consumers who are constantly dealing with these barriers, I wanted to understand and support them and design services specifically for them. So went out to Uganda, spent a lot of time out there. I built technology to enable what are called unconditional cash transfers. And
so wait, when you say you built the technology, what do you mean you built the technology?
A payment system to move money.
You coded software, or you like?
I hired people to do that.
and was it like a SaaS thing, an online thing, or an app, or?
Yeah. So the first company was, we wanted to enable philanthropists. So this was our focus of creating more efficiency in the global giving space. So how do I know if I'm writing a check to a nonprofit that it's actually going to go in the hands of a consumer, change his life? So we created this technology to accept money from people, send it directly to a consumer's mobile wallet, and started tracking all of the ways that the consumer used the money to invest in their lives. So was it going towards, kids' school fees, their health, their businesses? So I went out to Uganda to start running these programs. We ended up, it was essentially universal basic income. So we would give a year's worth of income to a subsistence farmer and conduct a lot of research and collect a lot of data to figure out what was actually happening with that money and was
This
it
is
creating.
so. Wait, I'm sorry. I just want to break this up a little bit, but like this is so cool because I was just going to ask you. I was going to say like I'm sure you've heard of this because I had heard about this program where they were giving money to these small communities and testing this. And tell me if this is sort of like what you guys were doing, but they found that like as in contrast to just giving like cash, different communities and people would find that they would be sort of pressured into giving that money to somebody else or like the leader of the town versus getting cell phones in the hands of people. They could give it digitally, and that gave complete control and power to individuals to use that in ways that helped their lives. Was that?
I'm not sure what this is. It like an organization? It sounds interesting. I haven't heard
Yeah,
of.
it was a thing. I was working doing some research for like this UN
Oh,
group on like the 17 sustainable goals, and like there was this test case in this one town. Um, but by giving like cell phones to everybody in the town, like every adult, it meant that these women who were like there's an example of some 7-year-old woman who in the past she'd kind of been like her money had been stolen basically if it was cash, but with the cell phone she was able to control that and it empowered her. Um,
yeah.
but it's just so interesting in these emerging markets, like you were saying, like there's no massive infrastructure legacy stuff, and so it can kind of start fresh. Um, can you, as you're telling the rest of the story, like I want to get at like how do you like envision the next couple of years of what is your market research showing and your behavioral economics of how are you going to kind of get um, folks to get like what are the kind of barriers, like are they fearing the whole concept, or how are you going to get this ball rolling?
No, so we recognize the hardest part. Like this has been the problem for crypto for since it started as like building out an ecosystem. Why, like still to this day, why are people not transacting with Bitcoin? Why are they
Yeah.
not going to, why aren't they buying their groceries with a Bitcoin wallet? And it's because one, it's not solving a massive problem or filling a need for a lot of consumers. In the emerging markets, though, these are serious problems that consumers face every day. And so we've designed a system where we said we need to build out this entire ecosystem, and there's a number of steps involved in that. In order to get uptake, in order for this token to actually get in the hands of millions and to start actually fulfilling a lot of to solving a lot of the problems that we set out to solve. So first, it's design an incentives driven token model. So there's one thing about giving tokens, there's another thing about actually rewarding people, and incentives actually motivate behavior change, and that's what we tested originally. If I pay you, will you save more money? If you get rewarded, will you set a budget and start tracking your spending? So we ended up growing a community by over 1 million people in just a few months because we were testing an incentives model. We rewarded these consumers mainly in Uganda and South Africa for behavior change. And that's what drove us to design Dala, the utility token model, in the way that we did. It's incentives driven. So the second piece is you need a user-friendly wallet, and that's a big problem. Like today, I still struggle even purchasing any new crypto or participating in token sales because it's a little scary. One
Are you
mistake
talking about like just in general? I mean, like I can't tell you. I'm not going to name any names, but I can't tell you a single app,
yeah,
or even exchange website, anything where it's like just impressive user experience.
exactly. That's the problem. So we said we needed to make it so seamless and simple that anyone can understand it, and that it's we don't brand this as crypto. If you tell someone this is cryptocurrency, they're going to have no idea what that means,
Uh huh.
and the concept of it is bizarre and a little scary. So I'm going to be turned away from it. We actually, message this to consumers as a rewards mechanism. So you get rewarded just like you would with credit cards. I'm rewarded now with all these credit card rewards. I can go buy vacation with it. It has value and it can be redeemed for things. So that's our initial way to design and build trust to make it a more user friendly solution. The third element is that it has to enable zero fee and instant transactions. If we're going to compete with the other solutions, which are cash, we need to make it better and easier. So zero fee and instant is really important. Another element is that you need to enable an exchange. It has to be very easy for someone to move rand, shillings, whatever currency they're operating in, to Dala and vice versa. Which means we need liquidity on the ground. We need it, to support, every market so that a person can send a remittance and they can go turn that into fiat if they want. Another piece is the transactions. We need to get merchants everywhere accepting Dala. And so the way we're initially doing that is consumers in our app can use Dala to buy data for their phone. They can pay bills. They can go to a merchant and transact. But what we're actually doing on the back end is buying that Dala back from them and paying the merchant in fiat. That's just part of the initial build up, because that's how we have to build trust. We need to make sure that they see that there's value in it and that there's a market for it.
I mean, that sounds like that could be just a huge undertaking. What are you finding in terms of building out that back end where you got to, when they hit the button and say I'm paying my cell phone bill or I'm paying a bill, you guys have to create some pretty serious infrastructure, or am I or is you
No, it's not the infrastructure. It's the only piece that could become a problem is if we grew by millions of people instantly.
Yeah.
Which I don't foresee that to happen. So we have it in a controlled manner, which is fine, and that's what's we're always over time we see that the value of the token will increase and that there's going to be no need for us to do this as we keep building out the ecosystem. More enterprises, more users, people are transacting with it, that will slowly start moving away from having to do that.
So what's the roadmap, what's available right now for consumers?
So we're in alpha in South Africa. So we have users in the Wallet app who have Dala wallets. So this means they can download the app and sign up. And once they do, they get a Dala wallet, and we reward them for taking a selfie, for providing identification if they want. They don't have to. For signing up friends, so getting other people to join. With all these rewards, they can then go to our marketplace in the app. They can buy airtime, they can buy data, they can send a payment to their friend. And come April, so in a few weeks, we're going into beta where we'll be rolling out in Zimbabwe and Uganda, preparing for a full market release in all three markets. And we'll then turn on the functionality for on the ground cash in and cash out at our 30,000 merchants that we have on the ground.
I've got experience. I was in an accelerator 3 years ago with a color puzzle gaming app, and testing for us was hard enough. But how do you test a beta where you're sending currency to a foreign country? What's your testing environment like?
So right now the test net is the Ethereum test net. So it's in alpha, it's not live. So we have people from our token sale who are testing as well, because they really wanted to see what was going on. And, we're like, don't move any of your Dala tokens because it's a test net and you'll lose them. So
did everybody listen?
Yes, everyone listened. No one will make that mistake. But it's on testnet right now, and in beta, it will obviously be live in market. So that's a question you can ask my CTO about.
Yeah. Gotcha. And so coming out of an accelerator, for you guys, did you with Walla, are you drawing up personas of your ideal customer? I kind of always hated the personas, but who do you see as like
I hate the personas.
I know. Yeah. I hate the personas.
So it feels just so weird.
Yeah.
There's a few. So the target customer for us is this mass market consumer, like I said. So this emerging middle class consumer, they are employed, A lot of them are Uber drivers, domestic workers, bus drivers. They are mining in the mining industry. So a lot of individuals who are fed up with this financial system and are looking for a different solution. They're not consumers who are living in the rural villages and are living in extreme poverty. That's not our initial focus. It's the consumers who are in the urban areas who are looking for an alternative solution, and from there, it will start trickling down to the harder to service consumers in rural areas, just because people in urban areas generally come from the villages and they have to send money back home to their parents. So they're the ones who begin to educate family about the new services that they're using. And then also, students. So colleges are a big play for us. There's a lot of universities in these markets that we're in with students who are on smartphones, who are looking for better solutions, who love the Facebook and WhatsApp experience. And we've designed Wallet to feel like WhatsApp and Facebook, with chatting and connecting with friends and being very social.
So cool. And how did the ICO go for you guys?
It went well. So, we didn't hit our cap. We when I look back at it, I'm like, our goal was to issue the token so that we could build this and get it in the hands of users. We got enough funding to double the size of our team and have runway for over a year. And so, we did our sale during the Bitcoin run where everyone was hodling and nobody was moving. And
Right.
we rushed it, and we kept thinking, like, do we extend this? Like, every other token sale by us was extending and extending their deadline. And we were just like, it doesn't make sense. Let's just, like, I'm sick of seeing companies raise so much money and then sitting on their ass and doing nothing. So we're like, let's take the money we have. This will keep us hungry and
Yeah.
us have a sense of urgency because we need to raise again. So we're happy just because we're heads down, working really hard to deliver so that we can go out and do maybe like a secondary sale. Um, but but yeah, I'm happy with where we ended up because it put us on the map. Now a lot of people are starting to hear about us and know the cool things that we're doing, and I think it'll set us up for more success later on.
So cool. Like I said, this is, I mean, like when we ask people, how can the blockchain change the world? This is one of the main things people talk about is getting, you know, money and banking and financial systems into the hands of emerging markets, throughout Africa and Asia and South America. And I mean, you're starting in South Africa, which makes sense. You're there and you're kind of moving into Zimbabwe and some other countries around there next. Do you kind of see, like, I mean, maybe it's sort of silly to kind of look beyond that because you'll just see where you are and get there. But like, what about Asia and South America and those markets?
100%. So our focus right now is Africa. By this year, I plan for us to be in 10 markets. We have these merchants and systems built out in so many markets through partnerships. And as a borderless service, like, we can better service the remittance use case by expanding pretty quickly. Asia is obviously a massive opportunity. I think that we'll be there in the next few years, fall, and then after that, Latin and South America as well.
And do you think you're going to stay in South Africa?
Yeah, South
Yeah,
Africa,
you're
like,
getting probably getting rooted down there. Um,
I we definitely, like, we were like, I think my biggest pet peeve and the biggest failure to so many companies is that they sit in San Francisco or London offices and they're like, we're gonna save Africa, we're gonna build solutions for them, and I'm like, screw you,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
don't insult these people. You don't even know them. We make, we're in, like, the townships. Like, I'm making an effort to be in the townships every day, to go sit with customers, to understand their lives and see the problems that they have to deal with, so that they can design the solution that they want. And most crypto companies in the space who have done ICOs have no idea actually how to service these customers, and that's why most of them are going to fail, unfortunately.
it's got to make all the difference to be there. That's so cool.
Right, 100%.
Um, I want to give you a chance to share URLs and information like that. So how do folks who want to find out more, plug in, what can they do, and how do they do that?
Yeah, so visit Dala, DALA.org. That's the Dala website. If there are people who want to be enterprise partners, participate in the ecosystem, buy tokens, that's the best way to go. Our Telegram is t.me/getwala, GETWALA. My Twitter handle is Tricia Tita, TRICIA, and our Twitter handle for the company is Getwala, GETWALA. So reach out if you want to help start a financial revolution. Come talk to us.
All right. Well, this is so cool. I thought we'd have more about South by Southwest, but this is a topic that we have yet to cover on the podcast. So thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.